Let's party.
Hello everybody and welcome to Party Loaded. It is episode 209 and we're discussing everything great in the world of video games. Tonight I am joined by, we have Christian Paulson Brown. We have
That's me.
Matt, the Game Dad, Diet.
Hello.
And I'm pretty sure I said my name, Luke Ritalik. If I didn't, I'm really hot and tired.
Adrian?
And yeah, Adrian's not here. Yeah, Adrian evaporated. Just couldn't handle the heat.
Evaporated into salt.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
If I sweat enough, I can reconstitute him.
Ooh, gross.
When he comes, that's how he's going to return. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So the thought occurred to me today that we are in February now, and being a leap year, we've actually got a bonus day this month. So how are you guys going to spend your bonus day? Are you going to spend your free day gaming and not working? Is that how that works? I'm pretty sure that.
What day does it actually fall on? It's a Friday, so I probably will be gaming actually because I'll have the day off.
Yeah.
I'll be working, but I'll be working on my stuff. So.
Okay, all right. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's kind of
extra Friday. It's still work.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not like that situation with daylight savings where you like literally gain time for a while until you have to pay it back.
If only.
Yeah.
If only.
Would be good if
I'm pretty sure that like daylight savings is a deal with the devil that you just get extra days, right? That's how it works.
I've always wanted to like fly from New Zealand to Hawaii because you cross the international date line and you gain like an entire day. Mm-hmm. I just want to feel that and be like, hell yeah, I've like traveled in time, and then completely ignore the whole going back thing.
You just have to
There was that one guy.
make sure you don't touch any butterflies or any shit like that. Just
There was that one guy that flew over to the United States and then flew back so that you could have his birthday twice.
Oh, that's sweet.
He had his birthday on the plane.
that's so not allowed. I really dislike that.
I remember when it was the new millennium, Pepsi ran a competition where, because Concorde was still around then, and they actually had a Concorde flight, and you'd celebrate like the new year in London, and then you'd Concorde to like New York, and then like celebrate it again.
Yeah,
and that blew my mind. I was like, how the fuck? But,
yeah. A lot of cruise ships do that. They wait on the international date line and then cross over so they can do the thing again.
But otherwise, like kids under 10 are the only ones that should be allowed to celebrate their birthday twice. That's the rule, right? Because then you have like their actual birthday day and then they have the party day, and they basically treat it as two birthdays. That's how that works.
That just sounds like a very, very old man talking.
Oh, shut the fuck up. Anyway.
Is that like the Georgian calendar and the Roman calendar? Is that like...
I don't know. I was just consulting this stone tablet that says this sort of stuff to me. So anyway, I don't know. What I do know about is games, and we know about games. Matt, you know about games. You've been playing some games. You've been doing some games. Let's talk some games.
I have been mostly doing games. But yes, the last couple of days I've put some more time in with Pillars of Eternity, Deadfire, which has been really, really great fun. The comedy in it, I'm going to reiterate it again. It's really, really funny. I wanted to make... I was thinking about it this morning, and I was like, I want a mode for it that is the true Critical Role mode, where every single NPC in the game is voiced by Matt Mercer.
I'm sure there's video games out there that would fit that at the moment.
That'd be amazing. That'd be so good. I actually want to make that game, right? Like you play and you're dealing with a dungeon master that is voicing everything. And they do their best to put on a whole bunch of different voices. With Matt Mercer, you just get a ton of voices already. But there's characters in there, and because I've watched a little bit of Critical Role now, I run into them and I'm like, oh, okay, I know who that is. And when they're voicing their character, it's just funny how there's just those voice actors just constantly fall into archetypes. Like, oh yes, I can see that he is apparently the small angry one.
Yep. It's funny, like there's certain voice actors now that have become prolific throughout the industry, and I think, you know, a lot of the cast of Critical Role being a good example, but also your Troy Bakers and your Nolan Norths and, you know, your Claudia Blacks and that sort of thing. But
Liam O'Brien.
Yeah, but like I actually find that Nolan North in particular, unless he's doing particular Drake-like roles, he is so versatile that often I don't pick him.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. So,
like when he did Cade in Destiny, like you wouldn't have known it until you were told.
No,
like
100%. And the Ghost as well. Like I wouldn't have picked him for the Ghost either.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he does a really good job on Ghost, especially Shadowkeep.
I feel like it's changing with voice actors in video games now, where it used to be like the versatility was the key, but now because some voice actors are becoming bigger names, like Troy Baker's probably getting hired for roles where they're like, we want you to be like, do your Troy Baker voice, do the thing, and like that's part of like the selling point now is like we've got Troy Baker, so people will recognize him, whereas it used to be all about disguising them.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. Yeah, like do the thing that you did in Critical Role for this character.
Yeah.
Because the fact that they're gonna be like, oh wow, they got the person from Critical Role in there, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if they actually voice acted and then kind of hid the fact that they were that character, people wouldn't care as much. So I 100% agree with that.
I think Claudia Black is a perfect example of that because she's got that very deepish kind of sultry sort of very aristocratic feminine voice that stands out. Yeah.
There was a minor NPC I ran into and I'm like, oh, that's her. Like it's basically Bo. It's just that character. And so but when you run into him, it's really cool when you do. And then there's other times where it's like I'm kind of squinting and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's one of them. And that's where you can see like they're flexing a bit more of their range. But yeah, other than playing more Pillars of Eternity, Deadfire, most of my weekend, in fact, 48 hours of my weekend were spent at work doing the Global Game Jam. Since it was actually held at SAE. Which was actually rather nice, except for the fact that we discovered that IT had mistakenly turned off the air conditioning upstairs over the weekend, which was not great.
Oh, no.
It felt like an oven up there for a little while.
For anyone who's listening to this and does not live locally to Western Australia, it's fucking hot right now, yo.
It's stupid hot. But yeah, so lecturers were working upstairs, which was good for me because I got sick on Friday, and so I was like, I'm just going to separate myself from the people downstairs so that I don't like go spreading the plague and be patient zero in Perth for the coronavirus.
I was waiting for it.
But yeah, the theme this year for the Global Game Jam, there's always a theme, was repair, which was a way nicer theme than last year's, which was what home means to you. And repair has a bit more of a visceral kind of feel to it. Like there's a lot more you can kind of immediately think of when you work with that.
I don't know. I think
home means.
In terms of nicer theme, as soon as I hear repair, I think to myself, well, that immediately makes me think of all of the shit in the world that's currently broken. So it's not necessarily nicer.
It's nicer for game devs because they immediately think of all the shit that's broken in the world and they go, how can I make a game about fixing it? Or how can I make a game about how useless it is to try and fix it because we're all fucked?
Yeah, that's fair.
But some absolutely gorgeous games came out of it. There was one game which was just incredible. Like it was very clear that like it was some very, very talented graphic designer, a graphics engineer, I should say, wanted to do something really cool where you kind of rotated. You had like this silhouette of an object, and you could see like these shards behind it, and you could rotate those shards around until they fit the shape of the object, and it repaired the object. That
sounds like a certain puzzle game that we reviewed a year or so ago for Party Game of the Month. Remember Glass Masquerade?
Oh no, Glass Masquerade was different though. Like this was like the object is actually 3-dimensional behind this silhouette you've got. And so like for example, there was a vase, and so when you're rotating it around, it kind of looks like all these shards just kind of spraying outwards. Until you rotate it to the perfect position to actually fit the silhouette. Right. And then it gets exposed for what it is, which is like, this actually solid vase. But yeah, that game was really gorgeous. There was a really neat one where you played a little duck on this quest for bread. And they had started out with repair, but the game kind of like slowly deviated away from it. And you're basically playing on the surface of a Rubik's Cube, and the Rubik's Cube faces all have different rooms. And so you're trying to get to the bread, but you have to actually twist the Rubik's Cube around to move the map to actually navigate your way.
If they were inside the cube instead of like on the outside, that would be like that horror movie Cube. Literally, all of the different rooms sort of turned like that.
Yeah, but no, they're on the surface of it, and that was a super cute game as well. There was one where you played a gigantic cat that was trying to help everybody, but kept on destroying the city. It was kind of like the anti-Untitled Goose Game, where you're trying to help, but you keep fucking everything up. And yeah, so I actually did a little narrative game that I worked on, where you play this eccentric billionaire that owns a duct tape company, and he's run his company into the ground by trying to sell this product called corpse tape, with the whole idea that they were going to drive morticians out of business by allowing people to take care of their dead loved ones in the comfort of their own home. And there's a reason for it. It's not a reason. I can see you both making faces. For anybody listening on the podcast, they're making faces.
Taking care of your dead loved one at home has a lot of different connotations. I just want to make clear. Yeah.
But the reason I went with that theme is because there's in the Global Game Jam, there's diversifiers. And these diversifiers are little, like, more challenging tweaks that you can do. You can choose a maximum of 4 of them. I chose the maximum of 4. So one of those diversifiers is to make a game that exists in the same universe as another team's game.
Okay, that's cool.
So my game exists in the same universe as the other SAE lecturer's game, which is a game in which your dead husband, your husband's passed away. You couldn't pay for his medical bills. He'd been chopped up, and so you have to go get all his body pieces to reconstruct him for an open casket funeral.
Wow,
that's some good duct tape.
Really fucking morbid. So that's why the duct tape exists.
Yeah,
because so it's a crossover. It's a crossover there. So the game kind of follows
the duct tape cinematic universe.
The duct tape cinematic universe. We actually talked about this. It's the SAE lecturer cinematic universe.
It has to adhere to the setting.
Yes. But there was a bunch of other diversifiers I did, like using a D20 for gameplay. So the way the game plays, it's you basically roll the dice and you see what sort of outcome you get. Everything is fucked no matter what. And this guy is so much just trying to fix his falling apart life that he resorts to the only thing he knows, and he tries to fix everything with duct tape. And so, his business is falling apart, and he's like, well, how can I fix this using duct tape? And so most of the dice rolls involve, him trying to fix something with duct tape and it just going wrong. And you get a bunch of different endings depending on how well you rolled throughout the game and such. So that was the D20 diversifier. There was also the diversifier for taking care of yourself and getting at least 8 hours of sleep over the game jam.
Wow, they really want to add challenge to this, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah. I got 12. I got 12 hours of sleep.
Nice. Solid diversifier, though, like given current themes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it definitely worked. Like this year, there was a lot more people that definitely got the amount of sleep they were supposed to get. The final diversifier, and the one I'm probably the most proud of because it was the most fun, was getting a choir of 10 game developers together to sing a song. And so when we were looking through the diversifiers, I was like, okay, that's a really funny diversifier, but there's no way that I'm doing that. I can't sing for shit. I'm not going to write a song. And then one of my friends came over while I was working on this game about this eccentric duct tape, business owner, and they're like, duct tape, woo. And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
I'm going to write a song now.
With the DuckTales theme stuck in your head. There's no way to escape that unless you actually get it out of your system.
Yep. And so I followed through, and of the 48 hours of the game jam, probably at least 12 to 16 were spent listening to the DuckTales theme song and rewriting it.
Oh my god.
But it was great. Like, the moment other people heard about it, they were all getting in on it, and they were basically like sending me lines like, Matt, what if you did this in there? And so a couple of the lines in the final song are actually lines that other people suggested to me. And the song is basically kind of a mixture between how this character kind of sees the world, and also a hint at events that are actually going to take place during the game. It's portrayed in the game as he's gone out and hired a new PR person because he had to fire the old one. And his new PR person is basically this teenager straight out of high school who makes dank memes and is really he's in a band. So he's like, yeah, this will be my new PR person. And it's this kid that comes up with this really terrible song.
So we've got someone in chat who's just sort of asked, just a Fat Yeti, please tell me there's somewhere I can go to hear this song. I got you back, because rather than just describe this, Matt, what say we actually share this with our audience?
Absolutely, please do. Make everybody suffer.
Yeah. So this is the 10-person combo of duct tape. So hope you enjoy this one.
Here's one we prepared earlier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Changing hurricane, fixed with duct tape for your every pain. Don't need band-aids. Slice a boat into duct tape. Woo. No problem too big or small for duct tape. Woo. Covered by parody law with duct tape. Woo. The danger lurks behind you. There's a stranger out to find you. What to do? Just grab onto some duct tape. Woo! Fix your broken marriage with some duct tape. Woo! No problem too big or small. No leaky tap or crumbling wall. Oh, duct tape. Woo!
Amazing.
Fantastic.
Oh, great job.
I think the covered by parody law is my favorite part.
Yeah.
That was like, I was up at 3 a.m. and I was trying to figure out what line I was going to do in that section. And I was like, just throwing shit at the wall, trying to figure out what I was going to put in there. And then that just like came out of nowhere. I'm like, oh my God, that's perfect. I've got to do that.
Yeah.
I was talking about like one of the major plot points of the story is that this guy's marriage is falling apart. And so somebody else, one of my artist friends, Yen, was basically like, you should have a line in there about fix your broken marriage with some duct tape. And so when he had suggested it, he suggested it in a different spot, and I'm like, I have to use that line, but I'm going to change it to here instead. And yeah, the whole song was just a ton of fun to write. Getting everybody together to sing it was great. We actually got more people than necessary, so there was actually 11 singers rather than 10 because everybody wanted in on it.
Yeah.
There's a open hall in SAE that's actually really echoey, and everybody was like, "Why don't we sing in here?" And I'm like, "That's gonna just sound like hell on the recorder." But it turned out really well. It actually turned out better than I expected.
Yeah.
Like these untrained singers, I think there was 2 professionally trained singers in our group. I fucked up twice when we were recording it and completely jumped the gun on a couple of lines. But it turned out pretty good in the end. Like,
Yeah.
I was actually pretty happy with it.
Listening to it is one of those classic examples of where you've got a whole bunch of people together to sing that aren't used to getting together to sing, and they sort of like sort of just getting into it for the first verse, and then they kind of like just click where they're just like, "Fuck it, this is fun," and they actually do a good job. So yeah.
Yeah, and the whole thing with it as well. Like, I would have loved to have done more takes. But this was recorded pretty much on the final day in the last 3 hours, which was actually still a decent amount of time for me because it meant that we recorded it, I got to edit it and everything. I got it back to the computer, put it in there, and then basically had 2 hours free to do whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would have loved to have done more, though, but it was basically just spent mostly editing and writing the song. So, yeah.
Nice. Well, we had
great fun.
We had the link up on the track when we showed it a second ago as to where to find the files from the Global Game Jam. So I'll chuck that up in the show notes as well for anyone who wants to see it after the fact. But But yeah, like lots of good playable sort of stuff up there, from what I understand. Like from global
the
efforts.
games this year were really good. Yeah. So yeah, that was the Game Jam.
Nice. Well, on the topic of really good games, Christian, what have you been playing this week?
Is it though?
Well, let's hear your thoughts.
So I've been playing Control. I for the first time. I didn't pick it up last year when it came out, but I saw it on like a pre-owned copy on sale at JB, so I picked it up on PS4, and I don't know. I'm a couple of hours in, and I'm not. It doesn't have its hooks in me yet. I'll say that.
Okay.
So like, I find the world is interesting. The whole like kind of X-Filesy Bureau of Control shenanigans is an interesting concept, and I like the idea of like the objects of power, very SCP, as we talked about when the game came out. But there's something about like the way the narrative is like structured that hasn't really grabbed me. There's one thing that bothers me, which is that the protagonist Jessie, she has something weird and mysterious going on with like a character in her head or something, or like her brother, or it's this weird shenanigans. And it always frustrates me in a video game when the character I'm playing as has secret information that isn't being revealed to me, because I have trouble with like the immersion, and it frustrates me where it's like I'm supposed to be this character. I prefer when I'm in a situation where I'm with the character trying to discover things, rather than my character knowing more than I do, but just not communicating it to me as the player. So that I'm finding that a little frustrating. And like the core combat as well. I think you get more powers. I'm only in as far as I've got the telekinesis and the dodge.
Yeah.
But I'm finding it's pretty basic. Like very just like shoot telekinesis, shoot telekinesis. Like I'm not getting much from the action as well.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's 100% fair. Like having played it, yeah, like I enjoyed it. I actually really enjoyed the narrative, but in terms of like the powers and such, like I do agree that like there's not a lot there to kind of sink your teeth into mechanically.
Initially, it definitely ramps up. Yeah.
I can see some systems in there where it seems like there's room for it to grow, but I not yet. I'm going to stick with it. I looked on howlongtobeat.com, and it said it's only about like 11-12 hours long, unless you do like all the extras.
There's a lot of side content that's fun to do though. Like it's not one of those games where you feel compelled to mainline it because the other stuff feels like bolt-ons. Like it's a world that you want to explore for the most part. So.
Yeah.
There's a lot of quests where you're basically going out hunting SCPs as like side missions, and those are tons of fun, and they actually give you new abilities. So those are absolutely worth doing. There's some stuff that's like lore based, and the writing in that game is amazing when it comes to like the weird files you find and such. Those are all actually worth getting as well. Like that was basically the extent of all the side content I did. There's like hunts that pop up every now and then where it's like, hey, this area is being attacked, and I'm like, I don't give a shit, I'm playing the game. Like I'm not going to go stop what I'm currently doing to deal with that crap, especially when I have nothing to gain for it. So that stuff you can pretty much like safely ignore. So
in terms of the character development, it's an interesting point about like Jesse's stuff that's going on and sort of waiting for that to be revealed and you not having that knowledge as a player. But I think to a certain extent, the creative choice they made around the way that Jesse monologues quite a bit, I think is actually good in that respect, because she does reveal quite a bit of that story herself without having to wait on sort of third-party characters to kind of do it for her as time goes on. Like it's obviously spaced out in a way that kind of, you know, builds it throughout the narrative, and it doesn't do expo dumps on you in sort of one big spurt. But I think the fact that they can use that to do it is quite clever. So
I like the use of monologue, and like she'll be talking to a character, and then it'll have like her internal monologue about like, oh, should I lie to this character or not, or and then I was kind of half expecting to get choices, but then it doesn't give you choices. But I'm fine with that. But it's specifically Jesse having like knowledge that isn't shared with the player.
Yeah,
that frustrates me, and I think like it's a trope to rely on too much. But it makes me think of in a lot of JRPGs, your character is given amnesia conveniently, so that you as the protagonist discover everything about the world as if it's for the first time. And like going as far as having amnesia, that's overdone. But I feel like it's gone too far the other way, where I'm like, I'm you. Tell me what's going on, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think with Control, they kind of try to lean on the idea that she doesn't have clear memories of her childhood and the events that took place. And so a lot of what you're doing is meant to be like figuring out the specifics of what happened.
Right.
Especially when it comes to that voice she has in her head and what happened with her brother.
Yeah.
Because there's some late game reveals where a lot of the stuff that she has actually said in her head, she kind of turns out to be a bit of an unreliable narrator.
Okay.
Because she's remembering her version of events and not the version of the events that the organization believes happened. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely early enough in where I feel like an hour or two more, and my opinion could change a lot. I'm just getting into the pool, sort of thing, and then we'll see later on. But
I do think though that like when you first start playing her, it's clear that she knows stuff about the organization, but that doesn't get revealed until later on. And I do agree that that's a bit frustrating.
Okay.
Because it's like, what's her motivation for being here? You don't actually figure that out until like the 2 or 3 hour mark, or something like that.
Right.
I think both of these things can be true. Like you'll probably find that the criticism that you have now is accurate, but you'll also find that as you progress, like you start to gel with the game a lot better as you start to pick up more information and abilities and things like that. I think both of those things can absolutely be the case. So
yeah, for sure.
But
But I'll report back when I'm further in and see if I like it more. But.
Yep. It's reminded me I need to go back and finish that game, actually. I enjoyed the hell out of it, but it was during that period last year where there was just a whole bunch of things hitting at once. So, yeah.
Yeah, it came out at a crazy time.
Yeah, so speaking of going back and hitting things, I actually finally this week started playing a game that I purchased when I acquired my Switch late last year. And because I've been when I've been traveling sort of on public transport for a while just before Christmas, I've been playing Zelda Link Between Worlds like quite a bit when I'd had those opportunities. I hadn't really sort of fired up a new Switch game yet that had kind of captured me and I'd been sinking into during those trips. Finally did this week. I fired up Blaster Master Zero, which I just sort of acquired late last year and hadn't begun yet. Now, with the intention of playing it on the train sort of to work each day. Now, I'm sorry to say that didn't actually quite work out. I've ended up playing it at home instead of sort of while I've been training around. But the main reason for that is because this is a remake of a very old Nintendo game. I'm pretty sure it was a SNES game, the original Blaster Master. And my history with this game is actually like quite nostalgic in the sense that I played through this game almost to completion when I was a kid. And I think I was like maybe 1 or 2 levels off getting to the end of it. But it was one of those games that I never actually owned. I actually had to rent it from a video store, and sort of play it that way because I never bought it. It's basically a platformer, so it fits that kind of mold of like a lot of the games that I really, really enjoy, like your Metroidvania style things. But this one was unique in the way that it kind of had a platforming sort of side to the game where you're actually going around in a vehicle. It's like a little sort of rocket-powered sort of futuristic car. And there's some really sort of cool platforming elements to that, which are a bit different to if you're sort of on foot, the whole time. You sort of have a mix between the two. But then when you get into these sort of more kind of dungeony areas, it's kind of like a top-down platformer, like more of an isometric view where you're sort of doing your boss fights and a lot of your close-up encounters sort of out of the vehicle, sort of in person. And you can see on screen now sort of the difference between a couple of the points of view. So it's almost in a way kind of 2 games in one, and I always loved it from that perspective because there was a lot of cool ways that you could kind of sort of do stuff in the game between those 2 modes. But one of the things that stood out for me back in the day when I played it was the boss fights were awesome. Like they were really, really cool, like really, really characterful bosses, like these amazing creatures that had really excellent sort of boss fight mechanics, almost like a Mega Man type situation, but instead of sort of having gravity to deal with, you sort of, moving around the entire arena just from a top-down view instead of sort of having to, be anchored to the bottom and jumping sort of 2D like you normally do. But no, it's great. But the problem is, Blaster Master Zero being the remake of this game, they've actually added a few features, and one of those features is online multiplayer, which unfortunately means that I can't play it without an internet connection.
Really? It's always online?
It's always online, and I didn't realize that. which sucks because the whole point is I wanted to be able to play it while I was in transit. I've tried tethering my phone to it, but I just can't get a reliable enough connection, even if I'm not using that feature. So it's a game that I actually have to play at home. I can't play it on the go, which is annoying.
That's
shit.
Yep. So, and because in terms of like console play, like I'm relatively inexperienced with my Switch compared to you guys because I've played a lot less on Switch than say my kids had because they're the ones who have predominantly been the Switch sort of players in my household. But now it's actually got me really concerned. Like every time I acquire a new Switch game, I'm going to have to really sort of do my research and make sure it's something I can play on the go because I don't want to be caught like that again because that's kind of the whole reason why I've got my Switch. So yeah.
There's not many games like that I can think of. That's really
Not at all. But the Switch is built for being portable.
Yeah.
100%. So
that's what you expect from the Mighty Number 9 developers.
Yeah,
same dev.
Oh, it's the same dev.
Yeah,
it's a $1,000,000% better game than that. I'll say that.
I'm sure. Yeah,
it does. It actually looks really cool. It looks very Metroid meets like Mega Man. I kind of like it. So.
It's super fun. I think I'll finish it reasonably quickly, so I'm not too worried because once I'm done, then I can move on to something else that I can play portably. So I'm actually thinking I might need to get back to Octopath Traveler at some point and finish that. But
that's one that I never finished either.
Yeah. I think there's still quite a bit of game there for me. But I don't know. We'll see. I've got a whole library of games I can pitch for my kids, so no shortage of options. That's for sure. Anyway, that's a whole bunch of games this week. Let's dive into some weekly industry news and chat about some things that have been going on outside of our games. So Christian, you want to kick us off tonight? What's caught your eye this week?
Okay. So very exciting news for me. So there was rumors percolating around about Platinum Games having some new projects in development, and then they teased this thing called the Platinum 4, and then so they've got four announcements or 4 projects, and the first one that they've revealed is the wonderful 101 getting a Kickstarter to bring it from. It's currently trapped on the Wii U with basically nobody ever played it. It's in a glass case of emotion. And they're going to bring it to Nintendo Switch, PC, and PS4.
So for people who don't know, and I was one of these until earlier today when you explained it to me, Christian, what is the Wonderful 101?
So the Wonderful 101 is described as a Unite action game. So it's got Platinum Games like classic character action. So third person, deep combat system. It's based on like Japanese like Sentai series or like there's a term called Tokusatsu, which is like Power Rangers and Kamen Rider and like live action costume dress up shows. They're like really, really popular in Japan and really kind of like cheesy. Like Western audiences would know mostly Power Rangers as far as it goes. It's got that kind of like over the top team up action. We all combine like transformation poses and that kind of wacky stuff happening. And it's about a team of 101 people. And it was super fun, but it was because it was trapped on Wii U. Basically, nobody played it and nobody bought it either. So yeah, I'm really excited for everybody to get the opportunity to play it when it comes out.
I love that it's a Kickstarter to save a game from Wii U exclusivity.
Yeah, totally. And what's surprising as well is that it was published by Nintendo, and in like not in the Kickstarter FAQ actually, but in some game site did an interview with Platinum Games, and they asked like, how is Nintendo letting you do this? And they're basically just like, Nintendo was just cool with it for some reason. Like they just said they just let us do it, and they admitted that it's like not common in the gaming industry because Nintendo owns the IP, but they're like they just let us do it.
Wouldn't they want to make more money?
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to make money on it right now on the Wii U.
Oh, no, not
they're
the
not
Wii U.
losing anything.
Yeah.
Like they're not losing anything out of it. And if they go and get the Kickstarter money to put it to new platforms, is it going on the Switch?
Yes,
that's free Nintendo money. So
yeah.
Like,
and like Platinum Games has a good relationship with Nintendo. Like they published Bayonetta 2 and they're publishing Bayonetta 3. So there's obviously some like good graces there that would have contributed to it as well. What's surprising is that the the Kickstarter goal was really low. It was like 50,000 or 75,000 US dollars, which for a Kickstarter is not a whole heap.
And also not for that work.
No, but then the actual port, they're saying that they'll have it out by May. So we're in March already. So that's only like 2 months. Okay. So it makes me think that they either have already actually figured out how to port it and they've already kind of got it ready to go, or they're just supremely confident that it will be reasonably easy to do.
No, they would have had work on that already for sure.
Yeah, that was my assumption. Is they like somebody on the team or a group of people have already been like, yeah, we've done this. Like, just give us the go ahead, because May is so soon.
It is very, very soon. But I'm wondering now what engine it was built in, because like the engine would influence that, right? Like if they made it in Unity, then I'd be like 2 months to do that. I could see it. It'd still be a stretch. If it was done on Unreal, it'd be much the same situation. If it was their own, internal engine, though, I'd be like, what the hell engine are they running? Because that's insane.
The time travel engine.
Yeah, no kidding.
The physical rewards are all they've estimated that for November, but so they'll be coming after the actual game's out. And there are some cool rewards you can get, like all the characters in the game wear these like masks, and you can actually get one of the masks. You can get a statue of Wanda Red, who's like the main character. But there's one Kickstarter Kickstarter reward which is particularly funny, and it's the get blocked by Kamiya on Twitter. So Hideki Kamiya, who's one of like the directors at Platinum Games, notorious for blocking people on Twitter.
Cranky boy.
Cranky boy. I have actually backed the project at a tier which allows me to get blocked by Kamiya on Twitter. And it says that he'll tweet at you and then block you. So, but it also clarifies this is an optional thing. Like if you don't want to get blocked, you don't have to be blocked.
You're not gonna take that as optional.
I don't know. I'm weighing it up. I'm like, do I want to get blocked by Kamiya, or like, I don't know. I have to make up my mind.
Yeah. You got to commit, Christian.
I think I'll have to go through it. Yeah. Because he tweets at you first, I think that's the icing on the cake. Yeah. I can say Kamiya tweeted at me and then blocked me.
You've got a spare Twitter account. You're fine.
That's true. Yeah.
You could be all like, Kamiya tweeted at me and said, "Fuck you, Christian."
Yeah. Called me an insect.
Yeah.
They've completely demolished their goal. So they're already close. They're just shy of 2 million AU of the 75,000 AU goal. So they've absolutely demolished it. Their stretch goals have all been completed. They've added a new stretch goal, which is a remix soundtrack, because the music of the game is awesome too. And they've already beaten that. Actually, they've beaten the new stretch goal. So I don't know if they're going to add any more, but they're killing it.
Well, if they add any more, it probably won't be able to hit the May deadline if it's game related stuff. So
it's game related stuff, yeah.
It's one of those situations that I would fully expect it not to be out in May. Like I fully expect something will happen, but also like the scale of the project, the budget they were aiming for is so tiny that it does make me wonder what the motive behind it was. Because that's a sneeze in their bank account pretty much.
So Platinum Games for a year or so have been open about wanting to self-publish games, because they've always been this like guns for hire studio that has had to take contracts with publishers, but they're on record saying that they want to move into self-publishing. And so this is like their first step at doing that, so that they will be self-publishing these ports. So it seems like they just wanted they wanted the floaties so that they can get into the pool of self-publishing.
Yeah,
it's a very, very safe way to dip their toe into it and see if they can measure the interest. And if they get this sort of interest every single time they self-publish something, then they can self-publish stuff.
Yeah.
So no, that's a very smart idea.
On the topic of scale, I saw some chatter going around today, sort of bringing up the history with Microsoft on the development of Scalebound, whether they'd be able to potentially sort of revitalize that as a project and self-publish down the track. So that would be interesting to see.
Yeah. There's that. People have talked about that a lot, but that's another thing where like the IP I think is owned by Microsoft, and maybe they won't play ball as much as Nintendo did, or maybe they'd be happy to.
I don't know. Microsoft gives off the vibes these days, and we'll get onto this with our main topic of being pretty willing to play ball with a lot of people. So.
They do. Yeah. It could also be that Platinum feel quite burnt by that project by Scalebound, and maybe they're not keen to do that.
No, they I'm pretty sure they tweeted today and sort of said, it's basically up to Microsoft. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So maybe there
Cool.
is some appetite there. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm super keen. Anyone who's watching or listening who has any sort of interest in like Japanese character action games, go ahead and back Wonderful 101 Kickstarter. I fully endorse it.
Yeah. So that's one of the 4 announcements. Do you have any theories on what the other 3 might be?
I think there'll be a new Nier project. So they published Nier Automata. Mm-hmm. So I think one of them will be a new Nier project. And then like one of them can't be Bayonetta 3 because that's already announced. So it's not going to be Bayonetta 3. That'd be lame if that was one of the new things.
It's definitely Platinum that's doing Bayonetta though, isn't it, again?
Yeah. Platinum have always been the developer. They've changed publisher. Sega published 1. Yeah. Nintendo published 2 and supposed to be 3.
Have they said that it's 4 new projects though, or just 4 things that they're sort of revealing?
I think it's 4 things they're revealing.
Because it could be a full trailer for the new game.
Could be. Yeah. They last year in an interview, one of the heads at Platinum talked about I hinted that they're developing a game that people would think is way outside of their wheelhouse because they're so well known for character action. I think one of the announcements will be a game that's in a completely different genre. Like it'll be something that isn't the Platinum formula. So that's anyone's guess.
Top-down Bayonetta.
Yeah.
Like a Bayonetta XCOM clone.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Interesting. Well, I mean, Platinum does some good stuff, so I'm curious to see where that heads. Did they give a timeline around the reveal? So is it going to be like the next couple of weeks, or?
I don't think so. I think it's been rather cryptic. It's just been because it's just been like mysterious tweets as far as the Platinum 4 thing goes. So
yeah,
I actually wouldn't be surprised if they revealed them one at a time. Like maybe they wait until Wonderful 101 is out and then do the next one in May. Who knows? Because they've got a whole year. So
it's a long tail for hype, though. Interesting approach. Yeah.
Platinum fans are pretty hyped, though. So.
Yeah. Fair. I can relate.
We'll see.
Yeah. Cool. Well, all right, Matt. What do you got for us tonight? What's going on in the weird, wonderful world?
Yeah, so this was a news item that I thought was pretty funny when I originally read the tweet, and then I read more of it, and I was like, "Oh, this isn't funny at all." So a school banned a club of students from playing Fortnite. It's basically a Fortnite like esports club type thing. And the justification is actually pretty solid. And this is where the like cultural context, like in Australia, I'd be pretty pissed if a school actually banned like students from playing Fortnite. But in the United States, like they're basically saying because the game has guns in it, we don't really want that in our schools. And it's like, okay, I can actually kind of understand that. But at the same time, it really sucks because like esports is becoming more and more of a thing, right? And students being able to have access to games so they can get together, like it's still team play, it's still building that kind of camaraderie, and it's still like beneficial for them to do that, even if they're not getting the health benefit they get out of a sport. They should be doing it alongside a sport, essentially. But it sucks that's basically the sort of thing that has to happen there. Because at the same time, like I was kind of two minds on it. I was like, on the one hand, that's really shitty, but on the other hand, fuck Fortnite. But now, like having read through the article and everything, I'm like, now I just feel sad.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I think that you can associate a certain sort of negative vibe towards aspects of Fortnite, like some of the kidified sort of culture surrounding it, perhaps. When you go to a school concert, as I have done, and see 300 kids in a choir all fucking flossing together, and you just roll your eyes back in so far in your head that they're going to come out your asshole. Just stuff like that, sure. But I think it's interesting. Like the downside to this kind of thing, especially this kind of thing hitting the media, is that people draw the immediate connection between violence and video games that
absolutely
doesn't exist in the way that some people think it does. And that's a bad connection, and anything that kind of in people's minds draws that lattice work between the two, I think is not good.
Absolutely.
By the same token, I think there's a big difference between the kind of tone around a game like Fortnite where you're actively running around, and yes, it's third person, but you're still sort of actively running around and you are shooting people, as opposed to supporting an esport like StarCraft that has like super futuristic military soldiers with guns in it, but it's a very different experience in terms of the perspective. So I don't think it's the game so much as the tone deafness that could be perceived if people are running around in schools that have had real shooting issues, shooting each other for leisure, and I kind of get that. So it
does make you wonder, because like, would a school have a club in the United States that was sports shooting but not allow Fortnite?
Then that would be shit. Yeah,
that would be very shit, right? Like that's like where you're willing to draw this one line, because that's when it's like, school that has sports shooting club just allows Fortnite because it's got guns.
Unless it was archery. Archery, perhaps you could get away with because it's a different kind of tone. So,
maybe. But go ahead, Christian.
The way I feel about it is that the kids are going to play Fortnite anyway. Like stopping them having a club to socialize and play Fortnite together isn't going to stop them playing Fortnite at home. So I feel like this is a weird comparison, but it's like prostitution. It's like making it illegal. People are going to do it anyway. It's better to have it in a controlled environment where it's safe, and there can be some oversight.
I don't disagree at all.
Yeah.
But much like with banning prostitution, it's not to stop people from accessing prostitutes, right? It's to those people that don't like the idea of prostitution. It's to sate them. Essentially, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in this case, right? It's for all those parents that are like, my kids. Yeah. Whereas, like, so they're banning it for them. They're not banning it to keep kids away from playing Fortnite. They're banning it because, like, parents are going to be like, they're playing games with guns in school, right?
Because if that parent doesn't want their kid playing Fortnite, then don't let them play Fortnite and don't let them join the Fortnite club.
Yeah, absolutely.
But don't ruin it for all the other kids who are able to play Fortnite. Let them have the club, and then I'm sure that there'll be some adults involved somewhere along the line. They're not just getting 10 kids in a room going feral playing Fortnite together. There'll be some oversight with adults there as well. So
for the record, Christian is against school-sanctioned cock-blocking. Cool.
It's actually like I'm trying to understand, because the article's written and it talks a lot about like American esports stuff that I'm not familiar with, but it actually sounds like it's a professional driven team. It's not actually a team that's from the school. And the guy that was running the team is actually from an association outside of the school, and he actually supported the decision that they made in the end, which is very weird. But it was the school's decision to ban it, even though it was an outside organization that was organizing it. And basically they just accepted the ruling and said, yep, fair enough.
Yeah.
I very much agree.
You sort of have to put yourself in the shoes of maybe like a parent or a relative to someone who's actually been killed and that kind of thing, though, like in terms of how it would make them feel when people are kind of, casting caution to the wind when it comes to social activity and leisure activity that still carries elements of those themes.
It's a cultural thing. It's a massive cultural difference between Australia and the United States. But
they love their guns, though.
They do love their guns.
It is a different sort of situation.
And it's like Kentucky as well. It's not like it's like California or something.
Yeah, I totally agree, because like imagine. I just imagine the political kind of stance if like this school was like, we're banning guns in school.
Yeah.
And then it's like how much the fucking right wingers would lose their shit, right? But in this case, games are easy kind of to just punch down at, weirdly enough, because they've not got a massive lobby, and nobody's really going to fight that, because like the people in games that the people that typically work on games are usually more to the left, and they're going to be like, I kind of respect that decision, even though I dislike it, even though I believe in people having access to things. Like, I want to see gun violence stop, and if it makes people more comfortable, then maybe you just shouldn't have it there. So
at least this case is a bit less cut and dry than some of the other anti-video game violence idiocy that's out there. Like, there's a bit more gray in this one. Yeah,
definitely.
But the real question that I have to ask, given that this is happening in Kentucky, to sort of get a feel for the litmus test of where the line is drawn, do you think the school would ban the Colonel Sanders dating sim game?
I was waiting for it. I was like, he's going to bring up KFC. He's going to do it.
I'm pretty sure, like when they talk about Sid, that's actually what they play.
Nice. Those solid school thighs. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Yep. The danger of this kind of thing also is the precedent that it potentially sets. So, yeah, we'll see if that gets picked up elsewhere. But, like as Christian's saying, plenty of other ways for the kids to, get their fix, at least. That's
definitely
not going to stand in their way.
It's high school, right? It's not like primary.
It's high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it was elementary school, then it'd be a different story. But high school,
yeah. That school did have a shooting. That does, yeah.
Okay.
That makes a difference.
Potentially changes things. But, you could also say that school had a shooting and, that doesn't really narrow it down as far as the US goes these days. So
No.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Sadly. So,
Sadly.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, anyway, speaking of things along a sadly line, the last bit of news that I wanted to cover this week, and this will dovetail neatly into our main topic of the evening, Blizzard, once again, facing a bit of an uproar from some shit that they've done.
Good old reliable Blizzard.
You could have just said in some sad news, Blizzard.
Exactly. As much as given the local heat here right now, I wouldn't mind a bit of a blizzard. This is not the kind of blizzard that you want to be feeling. So, Now you all might remember that sometime at a previous BlizzCon, I don't think it was last year, it was the year before, they first revealed their plans to launch a reimagining of the original Warcraft 3, billed as Warcraft 3 Reforged. To the adoration and fanfare of almost the entire audience of sort of old school Warcraft fans. So Warcraft 3 is one of those ones that has a special place in the Warcraft pantheon in terms of the story content, because it's probably the clearest sort of connective tissue between the characters and the story elements of World of Warcraft to the original Warcraft series. Like a lot of the key events that sort of shaped the World of Warcraft and some of the main characters actually happened during Warcraft 3. So the introduction of some of the elements of the Fel magic and the demons and that sort of stuff. The rise of Arthas as the Lich King. He actually picks up Frostmourne? Yeah, Frostmourne during that game.
Hearthstone, baby.
Yeah. I was about to say Frostfang, but no, that's a different sword from a different game. Yeah. Like that sort of stuff is kind of, the original events captured in some of the cutscenes in that game. And, it's a really, really old game. It's super freaking ancient as far as that kind of cinematic content goes, as well as the general sort of graphics treatment and gameplay. So lots of people justifiably really excited about that. Blizzard's been working on it for a while. They did initially state that it was going to be released by the end of 2019. And they had been taking pre-orders for it with that sort of as part of the purchase sort of expectations. Now, they didn't actually meet that deadline, but I think it was the first week of January, they actually sort of confirmed that the release date had been shifted back a few weeks and that it would be releasing sort of later in January. And I don't have the actual release date that landed on handy in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it was last week of Jan. So we're talking pretty recently, like in the last week to current time. Now, unfortunately, shit did not go as planned when they released Warcraft 3 Reforged. There has been a absolute fucking outcry across a range of different issues. And I've got a short list here that I just want to sort of read some out of just to give you an idea. So, badly designed menus and ones that are buggy. There's bugs that make certain custom games crash, freeze, or desync, and they don't work correctly. And about 30% of maps are said to be affected. Due to the new graphics engine, SD mode looks heaps different to before. So some particle effects just look worse and bugged and that kind of stuff. There's a huge amount of bugs throughout the game in general. The servers that they play on are less stable than before, and that's affecting people who were actually playing the original Warcraft 3 as well as Reforged, because they still use the same sort of net support. Yeah.
Yeah. So about that.
Yeah.
So guess what they did after Warcraft 3 Reforged came out?
They patched Warcraft 3.
They very quietly shut down the BattleNet servers for Warcraft 3.
Okay.
You cannot play Warcraft, the original Warcraft 3. You cannot play it online anymore. You have to buy Reforged.
Reforged. Okay, that's obviously part of the complaint here because some people wanted to stick with, the game that they preferred. There's a whole bunch of features that got lost. So being able to choose which dedicated server you want to host on. Now it just sort of checks the IP location and fix the closest one. There's a whole bunch of word filters on how you can name your custom games that didn't exist before. There's people sort of having issues with ladder implementation. There's like a laundry list of crap. There's also the controversy around the new terms of use when it comes to modifying the game and sort of playing with mods and that sort of stuff. Because
probably the big one.
Yeah, I mean, Blizzard are very clearly sort of wanting to prevent another situation with Dota sort of being taken from the foundation of their game and becoming a juggernaut success that makes a whole other entity billions of dollars. Again, because they want to, maintain a hold on their own IP and make sure that that's not something they're missing out on again. But by the same token, as they sort of, close their hands tightly around that, people are feeling that they're being throttled in terms of what creative freedom they had, and that's not sitting well with a lot of people. So, yeah. But that just gives a bit of an insight into some of the issues that they've had. As always, the internet cancel culture is alive and well, and the runaway freight train of consumer rage is going strong. On Metacritic, I checked a couple of days ago, the industry review score for the reforged version of the game is sitting at around 60. The user review score is unprecedentedly sitting at 0.5. So
it is the worst game on Metacritic.
Yeah, that is horrific. And to draw some comparisons, user scores for games like Fallout 76 and Anthem. I think Anthem, last I checked, was sitting at around 4, and Fallout 76 might have even been slightly higher than that. So this is massive. And I mean, we've seen Steam review bombing before, and other places where users have a much bigger presence and say in how sort of games track overall. Metacritic is for many sort of seen as kind of one of those last bastions of slight accuracy because of the way they collate that information from a lot of different sources. And yes, it is split into professional sort of industry reviews and then user reviews, but I don't think we've seen this kind of like review bombing happen on Metacritic before ever, like to this extent. So
we've seen it before, but not to this extent. No.
Yeah. So
it's pretty shit.
Pretty bad. Yeah.
The part in particular about the modding is the fact that like Warcraft 3 lived on its modding community. Like it had such a long tail because of the fact that there were people willing to jump in there and modify the game and make cool modes for other people. Whereas they've crushed that community before the game's even out with this, right? Yeah. Like the game gets released and people see the terms of service. They're like, well, why should I but make anything, right? Yeah. Like, because if I want to make the next Dota, then I'm not allowed to now. If I go and make that game mode inside of Warcraft 3, I've essentially just become a Blizzard employee, and now any money that I would have made is actually their money. And that's real bullshit. Like it's very, very, it just sucks.
Blizzard as a company for a long time has cultivated this brand that seems to be evaporating sort of before our very eyes of holding off until stuff is ready because they don't release games that have this sort of wide range of bugs and quality issues. Like that's just not Blizzard. That's not the Blizzard that we've known for a long, long time. I mean, sure, there's been the odd thing here or there, but their brand has been around sort of holding off to ensure quality. Yeah. So
not anymore.
Yeah, no.
This is very much a turning point in their image, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the last couple of years have been a turning point in a lot of aspects of their image. Yeah,
absolutely. But I think this is like a very much like a exclamation point on the end of all that, right?
Yeah.
Like we've kind of hit this point where it's like Blizzard fucked up, but now we have an exclamation point on the very end of it because it is just such a massive middle finger to the community, right?
Yeah.
So
they have responded today and sort of turned around and said that they're apologising that people didn't get the experience that they wanted, and they've shared a few plans for what's coming next. They've got like a huge patch planned, which is going to deal with a lot of the bugs and issues and portrait animations and audio and user interface bugs and that kind of stuff. But they've said that amongst other things, though, like particularly the cutscenes, which was a big complaint amongst fans that said that they just don't look like what was shown when the first announcement happened for the game. Like, and we've seen this a few times before, like with different things announced. Like E3 is another good example. I remember when the first Division announcement happened, and they showed all of the in-game footage and the cutscene footage of that, and then when the game released, it just wasn't up to the same standard at all. This is another case of that. But Blizzard have turned around and said that was actually a creative decision, and one that was not intended to. They didn't want to compromise the classic look of the game. So it's almost like they're saying, we didn't actually want to make the game look too good because the original doesn't look that good. Which is a weird stance to take. So
yeah, it's just dumb.
Yeah.
Dumb.
Yeah. So they're offering full refunds to anyone dissatisfied with their purchase after a few sort of hiccups with that. Apparently, the refunds are being issued pretty much instantaneously now. So if you bought Warcraft 3 Reforged and you're not a fan, then you've got some recourse. So there you go. But sad times. I wonder
if Adrian knows. So we should buy it for him.
Yeah. Check it out. Adrian was a Warcraft 3 fan, wasn't he? I'm sure he's
I believe so. I think he's talked about it.
Has he? Okay.
I think so.
Maybe before I got to know him.
I'm almost certain he has, yeah. I mean, I'll just show a little bit of footage just to sort of hammer home like what the game looks like Reforged. This is the Reforged version. Like it does look like the graphics have been sort of improved, somewhat. But there's definitely elements of it that still look pretty old school. Like, yeah, I mean, you could point to this to me, and I would think that without knowing contextually, that scene just before would have actually looked to me like wow. So
yeah, and the graphical updates, that's people aren't too upset about that. With outside of a few like particle effects and things, it's all these other issues you mentioned, like the stability issues and the online issues, and the modding stuff. Like the game itself, if you're playing like a single player mission, I think it's fine. Like it's pretty much what people were expecting.
Yeah,
but it's everything surrounding that sucks.
Yeah.
And
people like they'll see one thing and then immediately start looking for more. So
yeah,
it's like
definitely
blood in the water. Yeah, but All right, well, anyway, that's a good segue into our main topic for tonight, sort of looking ahead to the year to come and some of the ongoing themes that have been happening for a little while. We'd like to sort of put ourselves in the position of some of the bigger developers and game publishers out there in the industry and think, what would we actually do in their positions ourselves? So, if we were CEO for a day of maybe some of these different games companies, what would we do in their roles? So we're going to backseat CEO or armchair CEO this thing tonight and chat about that sort of stuff. So, guys, what publisher or developer would we like to kick off and chat about first? What do you think?
What do you think, Matt?
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to point at me? Yeah.
Well, should we start with Blizzard? I mean, that's the obvious one because we just discussed it.
Yeah. Let's start with Blizzard. Yeah, because we were just talking about it. If I was running Blizzard, I'd stop fucking up.
Interesting take.
I'd pull a Hello Games.
Okay.
I'd go silent.
Oh yeah.
I'd just shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And I'd maybe say that Overwatch 2 is being delayed or something, and then I'd like wait a year or two and then release something that I'm really confident in and then try and win people back. But yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, because it does really feel like every single time they do something at the moment, they just kind of make the situation worse for themselves.
I've got a bit of a theory around this, and I think it, timing-wise, it obviously marries up quite a bit with their sort of entrenchment within the Activision sort of machine. But if you look back a few years ago to like around the time that Overwatch launched, I think is probably the big turning point, because we had a Blizzard of old that really didn't have a whole bunch out there in the ecosystem at one time. Like they had this cycle, which was fairly much a slow burn, where they had some extremely big titles that the company was very well known for, the Diablo franchise, your StarCraft franchise, WoW, obviously. And I think I'm missing something. Diablo, World of Warcraft, StarCraft. No, I've hit all the big ones, haven't I?
Yeah, they were the three big ones.
Sort of the big three. Yeah, and the time between releases of those games was extreme. Like World of Warcraft being the outlier because it's an online sort of perpetual world that's constantly being iterated on. we had, I think it was about 7+ years between StarCraft sort of releases, and there's only been 2
Longer
today.
than that. StarCraft 1 was like 97 or 98.
So it might be more like 9
It was like
years.
2009. I think it was over 10.
Okay, all right. So a huge gap between the two.
Yeah.
Diablo is a sizable gap between each instance of that as well, and Diablo 3 from Diablo 2 was a wide berth. But as soon as Overwatch launched, we around the same kind of space of a couple of years, we had Hearthstone as well, which ended up sort of turning into a bit of a juggernaut. We had Heroes of the Storm as well. And we had sort of the ongoing expansions for World of Warcraft sort of, occupying a fair bit of their media space. And then we had sort of the discussions around, what the next iteration of, Diablo is going to eventually start looking like. The fan appetite for that sort of ramped up again. And then we had a company that basically, instead of having like one big thing on the go at once, they had a handful of things. Like they became a company that was actually able to run like a BlizzCon event year after year and have multiple stages where they're able to talk to what's happening in each of their major game systems as opposed to just 1 or 2 things they're focusing on at a time. And that created an expectation amongst their fan base to keep up with that level of momentum. And I think that is ultimately what's failed them now, because they're in a space now where that pressure has not gone away and they've started fucking up. As a result of maybe splitting their focus too thinly, and things have not kind of gone the way they should with some of those things. So now we've got Heroes of the Storm in a sort of situation where its development on it has been ramped back considerably internally. Players who love that game seem to really love that game, but it no longer has a thriving esports community in the way that it did. And you don't hear very much about it at all. It kind of just sits off in its little sort of, reserve world in the background on the back seat. Hearthstone has probably suffered a little bit in the last year or so. It seems like the core game itself is in a pretty good state, but the esports scene around it has certainly pulled back a bit, and they've got some real competition in the market with the focus on, your auto chess battlers market and other people getting distracted by other games. So
Legends of Runeterra just came out, the Riot game.
Another good example, yep. And, it's a perfect storm for other sort of games to come in and trim the lawn of Hearthstone, because people who've been playing it have been playing it consistently for a while now, and are probably looking for something to mix it up and do something a bit different. And there's a few key features that they just haven't capitalized on the community demand for. So World of Warcraft's extremely old now, so
a Battle for Azeroth did not go down well.
Yeah,
like it just kind of went from weakness to weakness.
Yeah.
So
it's finally showing its age. Yeah.
People like WoW Classic, don't they?
No.
No? Oh, okay.
Like, people like the idea of WoW Classic, and then WoW Classic came out, and it had a massive spike of users, and then it died.
Okay.
Like, it has been dead silent, because of the fact that, like, people played it, and like, they got the whole, oh, this is cool, I'm playing WoW Classic again. But every single one of my friends that I used to play WoW with that was super hyped to play Classic WoW again were back off of that bandwagon within like 2 months, because it was the game that they had played before, but it didn't have the same impact that it had before, because it wasn't the same people they played with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So current projects that we know that are coming are pretty much limited to Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Besides the constant updates of new expansions
Diablo
of Hearthstone
Immortal.
and Diablo Immortal. I mean, that's not really on a lot of people's radars, to be fair.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. The expectation.
If you've got one.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't you have one?
That was the joke.
Yeah.
I think that you can draw a lot of comparisons between Blizzard right now and Bungie before they left Blizzard.
Yeah.
Just that immense pressure that you can see, like that Activision has on the companies that work with them. And you can see that now, I think, with the way that things are going with Blizzard. But I also think that Blizzard's changed. Like the Blizzard that we used to know was very, very kind of consumer oriented in the products that they were making. It's probably what made World of Warcraft so good. But you see that with Reforged, that it's really kind of anti-consumer. The way they've suddenly just flipped things around, like, you're not allowed that creative freedom to create anymore, right? And that's really unfortunate. Like, I think that the issue is Activision, but Blizzard's changed, and I don't think there's any unchanging that.
Yeah, they've been changed by that relationship beyond return now, where Bungie sort of got out before that happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think there's actually quite a bit of consistency with the way that Blizzard's kind of changed in recent years, albeit on a different scale because Blizzard's much, much larger, to BioWare. So BioWare's had a big changing of the guard as far as the personalities and some of the senior team in that organization have gone. They're a company that has been really, placed on a pedestal in terms of the pedigree of their past successes and the quality of their games back then, that are now suffering under a heightened demand for their products that's borne by the rate at which they've been pumping out sort of games and the expectations that their parent company probably has on the amount that they're getting done compared to what they used to do as well. So I see them as a very similar space to Blizzard in that respect. So, yeah.
Even Bethesda a little bit too. I think there's a podcast that I used to listen to a long time ago, a gaming podcast, and there's an episode from way back. They talk about the 3 Bs. They talk about BioWare, Bethesda, and Blizzard, and saying that you can always rely on them. They're like old faithfuls, they'll consistently release good games at their own pace.
Yeah.
But now it's like all 3 of them are shadows of their former selves, really.
Yeah.
Bethesda's insulated somewhat by the fact that they're publishing for other companies that have still got extremely good pedigrees. So that helps their image somewhat. But anything that's developed sort of primarily in-house by Bethesda game studios, I would absolutely agree. That's sort of got a somewhat tarnished image from recent years. Yeah.
And you always got to wonder, like, if Bethesda Game Studios was actually trying to enforce some of the way that they operate, would the next Doom be problematic as well, because they were trying to push, like, we do things this way, right? Which I think is a lot of what Activision's kind of done to Blizzard. Like, we are meant to make games this specific way. And it's what EA did to BioWare, which is what resulted in BioWare getting so fucked up. And other things. Obviously, there's also a lot of internal politics and the way that people just operate. So, yeah.
So besides the sort of doing a Hello Games and putting your head down and kind of, just bunkering down and making sure the next couple of things you're working on are just super, super polished and not released until they're absolutely ready to restore faith, is there anything else that you think you'd do if you're in the CEO position of Blizzard at the moment?
Release Lost Vikings 2.
Yeah, actually, I was gonna raise that. I think in terms of past IP that they could still do something good with, Lost Vikings is a fucking good opportunity. Yeah.
Come out of left field with it. Do something different.
Yeah.
I've got an even deeper pull. Do you guys know the game Blackthorn?
Yes. Yep.
It's a Super Nintendo like platformer by Blizzard. Bring back Blackthorn.
Hell yeah.
That's it. That is a $1 billion idea. That's to do black leather pants with a gun. I think he's bald. He's like Vin Diesel.
I'm sold.
Yeah.
Blackthorn. Yep.
That's the most quality elevator pitch I've heard tonight. I'm here for it. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that the other interesting variable is around the way that they're still sort of dealing with esports, because they're still clearly committed to the Overwatch side of things. Scaled back considerably on the StarCraft sort of front, which is just a product of the times more than anything. I really think that they've probably made the right move as far as Heroes goes, unfortunately. Like, I don't think that their continued investment in that game was necessarily paying the dividends that they needed for the effort, due to the nature of the game and the competition in the MOBA market. But I still think that Hearthstone is worth sort of saving in terms of a renewed focus on esports if they do it right.
Christian has opinions.
Yeah.
I have too many opinions. I could talk at length about this. But what I'll focus in on is one thing that they've done recently, which I feel is almost Blizzard cashing out Hearthstone esports, which is they've signed an exclusivity contract with YouTube so that all Hearthstone esports are streamed on YouTube. And they've recently started their Grandmasters season, which is like their kind of equivalent of their Overwatch League for Hearthstone.
It's not just Hearthstone, though. They've signed that deal with all of their esports. So Overwatch as well, the Overwatch League,
But the Hearthstone viewership numbers are abysmal on YouTube. Like, they were never that great on Twitch compared to like Overwatch. But on YouTube, they're pulling in like 2,000 concurrent viewers for Hearthstone Grandmasters, which is for esports is shocking. And in my mind, it feels like they've said that they don't have faith in their own ability to make revenue from their esports. So they've said, give us a check, YouTube, and we'll suck it up. And I don't know how much faith they have in their own esports to do that. So
it's an unfortunate, probably too late now kind of thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
But
I'm not filled with a lot of hope when it comes to. I mean, Diablo 4 could turn out to be really good. Like, I think it's probably too early to tell. Overwatch 2, I'm pretty tentative about.
Yeah. I'm ice cold on Overwatch 2.
Yeah, same. Very much same.
Yeah. So apart from that, I mean, what have they got really? Like, if they have a situation where, like, that's kind of, if Diablo in the next few years is their last real crack at having like massive mainstream success again, and they flubbed that, then where are they going to be? Where do they come back from that? It's going to.
I think a lot does rest on Diablo.
Yeah. I would expect that most likely they will end out kind of like just maintaining World of Warcraft and making Call of Duty for Activision, like every other Activision studio that Activision purchases that doesn't perform particularly well.
Yeah,
they end out pumping out Call of Duty.
I'll say this right now: if Blizzard Entertainment starts working on Call of Duty titles, like as one of the studios in that rotation for Activision, that is the death knell of that studio.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
100%. But they're not performing right now, clearly. So.
It'd be a sad day.
Make movies. Make a good Diablo movie.
Actually, yeah. Like if Blizzard just become an animation studio, that'd be a damn good decision.
Warcraft movie.
I think the reason why they haven't pushed in that direction is just out of fear of it not being profitable enough sort of previously. But I don't know.
I think
the World of Warcraft movie was a bit of I think it actually didn't tank, but it probably didn't meet their expectations.
It was a bit of a dud.
Yeah.
But the problem was like if it was a Warcraft movie that was developed entirely by Blizzard, I think it'd actually be pretty good. I think the bigger problem is that they're still games animators. They're not like film animators.
Yeah, but they've got the IP that would really hit the mark well. Yeah.
They could build a film team. Like they 100% could do that. But like they are all built around making games, so that's the team that they can be working on right now.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
it's kind of like it's almost like Konami in a way. Like they've still got the ownership of some really kick-ass IP, but just they don't know what to do with it in some respects. Like Konami, much more so, obviously. But yeah. So, all right, well, Blizzard probably not the happiest, brightest kind of picture to paint. So
Diablo 4 needs to not suck.
Yeah. We'll see what happens at BlizzCon this year, I guess, which is kind of what we said last year. But yeah. Let's see if they can avoid any more controversies of major note between now and then. Oh, Christian, throw another one in. What do you got to?
All right. So I wanted to talk about Sega a bit, but it's a bit of a different approach to the Blizzard talk, which is with Sega, right? I mostly just want to be a CEO for a day, so I can figure out what the fuck is going on with a lot of their projects. So specifically, Sega own Atlas, and they own they don't own Vanillaware, but what's the other one? Atlas is the main one, but Bayonetta 3, they're not publishing, but we haven't heard anything about Bayonetta 3 for a long time. So if I was the CEO of Sega, I would go to Platinum Games and be like, hey, what the fuck is going on? Here's a big bag of money. Get this game out the door. That's one decision I'd make as the Sega CEO, would be to make Bayonetta 3 happen, because I'm getting impatient.
Sega's a really weird company in terms of like the nostalgic attachment that some of us would have to it from the old days of them actually having their own console, because they sort of retreated for some time after the failure of the Dreamcast, and they were very heavy in the arcade market and still publishing certain titles, but they kind of disappeared in a way. Almost similar to how Atari sort of vanished into the background, but very, very different lineage in terms of what's happened with Atari versus what's happened with Sega, because they still seem to be a force to be reckoned with in some areas at the moment. So
Sega are still a huge company, and they still are very profitable. They make a lot of their money through arcades in Japan, so they have these Sega Taito stations, and they make tons of money through arcades, and they produce a lot of games that people don't even actually realize are Sega published, like the Persona games, for example. So because Persona is developed by Atlas is owned by Sega, so there's that level of obfuscation where people don't associate Persona with Sega. But that the money's flowing up, so they're still a big name. And Persona 4 is something that I wanted to mention as well, which is if I was a CEO of Sega, I'd make Persona 4 goddamn playable somehow. Because at the moment, you can only it's PS2 and PS Vita. They're the only ways that you can legally play Persona 4, which is a fantastic game.
I love the way that you worded it. Just makes it sound like the game's so shit it's literally unplayable.
No.
Make the game playable, damn it.
More widely available.
Get it in people's hands. Like put it on PS4, put it on Switch, get it out the door.
Yeah.
Because it frustrates me that they've got that game, which is one of my favorite games of all time, but so few people can actually play it.
So here's a list of Sega subsidiaries for you, because there's a couple that I'd forgotten about on this that in hindsight I'm like, oh, of course they fucking own them. Amplitude Studios. You mentioned Atlas already. Here's one that I forgot about, but in hindsight, of course they fucking own these guys. Creative Assembly.
Yeah, so all the Total War games.
Yep. So yeah, there's quite a bit of quality sort of lineage there. Demiurge Studios, Hardlight, Relic Entertainment.
Relic, yeah.
I'm not sure if that's
Relic's still around.
Relic's still around. Pretty sure.
Relic was sort of born again as
they were a THQ studio, weren't they?
They were.
Oh no, I'm getting confused with THQ Nordic. Yeah, so Relic. I actually can't remember. So
because I'm pretty sure Relic made like the Space Marine game for THQ.
Yep.
And then they must have gotten bought by Sega during the collapse of THQ.
Possibly.
Yeah. I think that's exactly what happened, is that they were bought out by Sega.
Yeah.
So they might have a different sort of form at the moment in terms of being like a minor support studio. We've also got Sports Interactive and 2 Point Studios. So 2 Point Studios, the maker of 2 Point Hospital, if I'm not mistaken.
And
And
there's the Sonic team as well.
Yeah, so they're not specifically mentioned on this list, but I would also include the Yakuza studio also, which I think
Sonic team might be an internal team.
Yeah. That's probably a list of other studios they own. But Sonic team would be internal.
So if you look at all the games that have been coming out in recent years and sort of look at what has been associated with Sega in terms of some of the really good ones, they're still releasing some really fucking good games.
Yeah. I think they're doing fine. There's just a few questions that I have that I want answered. Like Shin Megami Tensei 5. So that was a game that was announced for the Switch years ago. Like I think in the Switch's like first year of existence, that game was announced, and we haven't heard anything about it since. So I want to find out what's going on with SMT5 and get that out the door as well. So that's
I don't know, maybe as CEO, one thing I might do would be to sort of work on the collective branding of Sega a bit more and make it more of an entity in terms of the consumer eye. So to the level where if you had Sega wanting to say, do like a direct style presentation to say what they've got coming out for the year, you'd look at that and go, oh, well, I know that's going to be associated with these game series and these game franchises. So the Sega name actually gets me excited for that reason. Yeah.
That's not a bad idea, actually. As some sort of like a Sega Direct would be. I'd be
Sega. Oh yeah, that's actually a really good idea. Yeah. I think if I was their CEO, I'd bring back Trash Rat Sonic for the movie.
Yeah.
You do like Capcom did with Street Fighter the movie the game. You make Sonic the Hedgehog the movie the game, and featuring the Trash Rat.
Yeah,
You got to have the director's cut.
Yeah.
Bring out the Trash Rat cut.
Yeah. It's an interesting comparison to Capcom though, because there's a lot of stuff that we think like, oh, Monster Hunter, yeah, that's Capcom. Resident Evil, yeah, that's Capcom. Sega, the direct connection's a little bit like fuzzier.
Yeah.
So they need to tighten up on that in terms of their image. So
get out in front of that stuff more often.
And they have some like JRPG series with like great lineage that they haven't really done anything with recently too, that I'd like to see them revisit. So like Phantasy Star and Shining Force were like big names in like the 90s, but they haven't really done much with those IPs.
Phantasy Star Online 2 is coming out this year, I think.
Yeah, but Phantasy Star Online 2 came out originally. I want to quickly look this up because
Dreamcast, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's Dreamcast. Yeah, so it was like that's a 20-year-old game that's finally coming out in the West. So I think they can make a Phantasy Star Online 3 by now. So
yeah, that's a fairly good call. Cool. Yeah, I don't know. They're super interesting.
Yeah. Sega's an interesting one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to jump in on one. A really, really quick little one. So CD Projekt Red. If I was in charge of CD Projekt Red, I'd stop them crunching.
I knew that when you you said you wanted to talk about that. I was like, it's gonna be stop the crunch.
Yep. And if I was the CEO, I'd have a spa day maybe, like because he's
What
looking
is
a little bit.
happening? The 80s. Yes, I've seen that. Which one would you do with the three?
Yeah.
And then Cyberpunk 2077, he's looking more and more ragged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny if you look at a similar sort of evolution image of like Cory Barlog, the director of God of War. Like it's almost the opposite. Like where he's getting like across that time like more and more sort of refined and.
He's pro crunch, right? So like he's absorbing the energy of all those stuff that he's slowly killing.
Yeah. He's fully morph ball and he's right in there. Yeah.
He's the Captain Crunch, like just Captain Crunch vampire.
Oh no. Yeah.
But the main one I actually wanted to cover was Nintendo. Because I think Nintendo's in a really, really cool, interesting position right now. Coming into a brand new console generation when they're very much out of step with everybody else now. Like they're basically ahead of the game, essentially.
I think they've already made one of their smartest plays this year, which is that they've just confirmed that they have no plans for new console releases this year.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
Yeah, being clear up front about that, I think was a very good play.
Absolutely, yeah. Because like now we can all rely on the Switch to be around for a really long time. If the Switch has the sort of lifespan that 3DS had, I think that'd be really, really cool. And like the variants of inversions and that sort of thing, I'm actually really okay with that. I think it's actually really, really neat. The Switch Lite was a super smart idea.
Yeah, and selling gangbusters. They're doing ridiculous numbers on that thing. Yeah.
And like you see the Animal Crossing console that they just came out. That console looks fucking incredible. Like I'm not a huge fan of Animal Crossing, but I look at that console, I'm like, the colors are beautiful. I want to buy that. I already have a Switch. I can't justify this, but I'm going to do it anyway.
I was looking at some interesting stats on Switch sales the other day. They're past the 50 million mark now. In terms of global distribution. And I think last check they have now exceeded the original NES numbers or SNES numbers or both. I think they've just gone past both of them because the NES and SNES are actually quite close to each other in terms of numbers sold. Haven't beat 3DS yet because 3DS is stupid. It's like 130 million or something crazy like that. So they're going to have a way to go to before they make that up. But with the 3DS numbers, that's also encapsulating all of the different variants of that console that they released as well, because they did quite a few sort of different retoolings and remakes of it. So between the XLs and the new 3DS and all that kind of thing. So yeah, but I think like Nintendo's found their niche in the portability thing, and it's so separated now from Microsoft and Sony that those companies are never going to be a threat again. And like they kind of put themselves in a position where it's like we're not a mobile phone, we're a console made specifically for being portable, that plays games, right? So they're not even in competition with mobile phones in that respect. So they're just on their own. Like they're in this really, really unique space where they don't have competition, and I think they just need to keep on focusing on that. Like keep on building games that are portable, keep on making really, really cool portable consoles. Like I love the idea of like a Nintendo Switch, but we start seeing Nintendo Switches that can use that roll away screen technology, so they become even more compact, right? Like that'd be incredible. That'd be so super cool. I don't expect the Switch to be around that long, but that'd be really, really awesome. I think as well, Nintendo as a company have completely disregarded the typical gamer branding of we're cool and hardcore, and it's all bright colors and hopefulness, and I find that really refreshing now.
Did you hear about the Reggie graffiti logo thing?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so around GameCube launch, Nintendo were considering a rebranding for their official logo, and they wanted to go ahead with like a new look that was written in like graffiti style writing. And apparently Reggie was very vocal on putting the kibosh on that. He revealed in a recent interview, and we're all very thankful that Nintendo didn't try to be the cool edgy kid with the rap graffiti song and the crappy logo. So good on you, Reggie.
Imagine that timeline.
Yeah.
Those poor people.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But I think the main thing that if I was in charge that I would want to see change, or I'd want to kind of push on, is some new IP.
Yeah.
Like Nintendo actually like kind of taking steps to do something new and different.
We need another
putting teams on
Splatoon
it.
success story, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Like, because like Splatoon is now part of all those franchises that we know and love with Nintendo. Having something come up like that again, that we can add it to the Legend of Zeldas and the Mario Karts and all of those things, like that'd be amazing to have another Nintendo IP. And I think if it's not happening already, I kind of think it is. I would very much expect they've probably got somebody working on a new IP at the moment.
It's kind of organic to a certain extent, though. Like, I don't think you can force it too hard. Like, they tried it with ARMS, and that didn't really sort of hit the mark in the way that I think they maybe wanted it to.
ARMS is not the right game for it. Like, I don't think it was ever intended to become like. It was never meant to take a place on that altar of core Nintendo games. It was kind of just like a release title.
It seemed like for a while they were trying to make it that way, but
maybe,
yeah.
But like it to me, like from the outside, like it seemed like a really shallow idea. Where even Mario, like as shallow an idea as it is, there's a whole bunch of mechanics in there to play with to make more unique games from.
Yeah,
and the same goes for Splatoon, right? Like. There's nothing stopping them from making a single-player Splatoon game. There's nothing from them making a Splatoon versus Rabbids game.
Yeah,
like those games happen.
I think that's actually part of what holds them back from creating more new IP is that their existing ones are so versatile.
Oh yeah,
and you can make a Mario game doing pretty much anything. So if they can say like we can make a Mario space exploration game, which we know people are going to buy because it's Mario, or we can make this new IP space exploration game that doesn't have that brand recognition. So let's just make the Mario one because people are going to recognize it.
It's not like they're using all of their IP to the full extent either. Like they haven't done anything worthwhile with Star Fox for a while.
Oh yeah.
So
let's not talk about Star Fox Zero. But a lot of people might not know, but Splatoon prototype started out as a Mario game.
Yeah.
And then they transformed it into a new IP, but originally it was going to be a Mario style, a Mario game. So that's at least an example of what of them branching out and trying something new. So
because like it's one of those things where like I think Mario Sunshine kind of suffers from the fact that it's a Mario game.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was a unique game that wasn't a Mario game, it had the potential to actually be a franchise all onto its own. But instead it was kind of a gimmick. It was a gimmick in the Mario universe, right? And so
Star Fox Adventure, I just want to quickly, it's a deep pull GameCube game. They should have made that its own thing. It shouldn't have been a Star Fox game.
Absolutely. And it started out as not a Star Fox game, but it was made into a Star Fox game.
Yeah.
And so I 100% believe that like, having new IP that's around a mechanic that's really solid is a super good idea for them, right? Like Star Fox is a game about flying ships in space. We could make a game about Mario flying ships in space, but that doesn't necessarily mean we should, right? Because then if it's Mario, then that's just that one game. People are expecting that it's just going to be a one-off. But if we make a new IP that's about like Splatoon almost has some of its roots in Super Mario Sunshine, right? So I just see tons of potential in there for them to come up with something new, to come up with a mechanic that could hold a franchise.
Mario is an interesting case because there's been so many Mario games now and so many different Mario games that the release of like a new flavor of a Mario sort of world sort of cast game doesn't hit people in the same way as it does for some of their other franchises in that they don't see it as by this existing, they're missing out on the next mainline Mario. Whereas like for say Metroid, for example, like when that Metroid sort of, what was that? Metroid sort of 4-player kind of sportsy type game that came out. I forget the name of it. When that released, like people got pissed because
Federation Force.
That's the one, Federation Force. Yeah. People sort of were like, "Oh, we're getting this instead of the next mainline Metroid game." I think Metroid's another good example of like an IP that is absolutely rich should they choose to use it, but they need to like get their house in order first with the core and then explore outside of that. So how freaking awesome would it be to have like a sci-fi style sort of game that covers all of these different angles in terms of a type of game they could produce, like a first-person shooter or like a heavy RPG or something like that, set in like a setting like Metroid or something else. You know, that's just one example. Because it's known and loved, but you know, they'll only take those chances with their IP that they've kind of got enough of the core for already. So
I think Nintendo's in a position right now where they can take right, like they have got such a massive chunk of the space that they can start taking a bit more chances, I think. Like, I would not be surprised if they're working on a new IP right now, or a game that will become new IP, because of the fact that they can take that risk.
Cadence of Hyrule, another good example. Cadence of Hyrule worked partly because there's enough core Zelda games on offer in current times. True. So,
I totally agree that Nintendo can take chances now, but I think that they only need to take like one chance a generation almost. Like I think if there's,
I'd agree.
If there's one new IP that they try for the Switch, that's kind of all they need to do.
Absolutely.
And if that succeeds, then cool. Just do another one in the next gen. But
maybe this is the point at which we say, is Nintendo Labo?
Was that its try?
Was that its try?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody was going to see cardboard boxes standing on top of the pedestal, right? We need another character-driven like Nintendo game. That's really what I want to see.
I'm really glad that Labo exists, and I'm awesome. I think awesome they tried it, but I don't think it was ever going to be that. Yeah,
no, definitely not. No. Definitely
not. Ring Fit Adventure, however, who knows? Yeah.
I think just broadly speaking, one of the things that's put Nintendo in such a strong position is because the Nintendo Switch unified their handheld and console development teams.
Yeah.
So now they're firing completely on all cylinders for one system, and that's just given them so much like ability and flexibility. And because there are some people who with the next gen consoles coming out, they're saying like, oh, you know, they're not going to be able to port next gen games to the Switch because the graphical difference is going to be too significant. But I'm like, I don't really think that matters. Like the games people are playing on Switch now, very few of them are ports of current gen games. Like that's not, Nintendo has enough of their own juice, and there are enough third parties producing exclusive games for Switch that they don't need to rely on third party ports. Like
and I also really love we do also see, like, compare the Nintendo Switch to the Nintendo Wii in terms of its library, and like you can see Nintendo doing a lot more quality control. We don't have those weird garbage games that we got all the time on the Wii. Like they're being much more strict about the content that actually goes onto their console. The quality bar is way higher than it used to be.
Physical games seems to be the case, but there's some trash on the eShop.
Oh, okay. eShop is entirely different. Like getting on the eShop is a very, very different beast. Like you only need to convince Nintendo to give you a development kit at that point. And mind you, that is hard to do. So anybody that does that and then releases a really shit game either already had a deal or they had made a very convincing argument. So,
but it's no iTunes Store or Steam Marketplace, that's for sure.
God, no.
Yeah. So thankfully. Yeah, no, I'm mostly with you, Christian, in terms of their focus on, like, not necessarily the latest and the greatest ports, but I think that there will come a time in the coming years where they have a few too many misses when it comes to games that don't port over well enough for the power of the machine to not be a focus again. Like, I think they probably do need to look ahead to what the next iteration of the Switch is going to be in terms of, like, a greater fidelity of graphics and power, you know, in terms of processing that it can handle. Maybe not this year, and obviously not this year where they would be seen as competing with the new Xbox and the new PlayStation. This isn't the right time for it. Like, but in the next couple of years, I think that's going to become a hot button topic again because they'll otherwise start falling behind a bit in terms of what people want to play. Yes, they're always going to be a great indie machine. They're always going to be able to do all that sort of stuff excellently. But then when you get things like your Witcher 3s and your Dooms and things like that, that kind of barely run. I mean, even Link's Awakening, you know, having reported issues.
That was a weird one, though.
Yeah.
That's like it shouldn't have happened. But
absolutely, yeah. But if that starts happening more often and people start looking at the sort of console hardware as the cause, then that's going to become a narrative that they need to, like, accelerate away from by, you know, talking about what's next in their planning for that. So.
I don't think that Nintendo needs to worry about another console for a long time.
I don't
think
either.
I think that if what they need to do is they need to be talking about another generation of Nintendo Switch that is essentially the same way that we got the Xbox One X, right?
Yeah, like a half-step
here's
console.
Yeah, here's your Nintendo Switch Pro, right? So if you want to play Witcher, if you want to play Doom, it has a better chip for that, but you're sacrificing battery power, and it's essentially an at-home console rather than a traveling console for that reason.
As long as they do it in the same way,
the trade-off.
As long as you do it in the same way where all games still work on it, as opposed to some newer games don't work on the original Switch because it's not powerful enough. That's a shit situation because then you've got this weird compatibility sort of step. Like when they released the new 3DS, there was some games, and I think partly because of that additional little control stick they added, that just straight up wouldn't work on the old 3DS and only worked on the new one, and it got really confusing in terms of what did and what didn't. Their branding
They shouldn't do that.
Bad, yeah. I think they're keen to avoid a repeat of that. Yeah.
Yeah, like the way that I see it, like Doom and Witcher are not Nintendo games; they're Nintendo ports.
Yeah, but there's still big news stories for that console. Yeah,
well, absolutely, yes. But like at the end of the day, Nintendo's major focus needs to be making sure that Nintendo-oriented games run well on that console.
Yeah,
and so I don't think they need to upgrade to allow those ports to happen. If another company decides they're going to go and port their game to the Nintendo Switch, that's on them. If it runs like crap, it's not the console's fault if they don't build it well, or if they decide to go and put, okay, we're going to put fucking Crysis on the Nintendo Switch, right? Like, why?
Which is weird when you consider how old that game is, but it would probably still have issues. Yeah,
it probably will still run like crap. It will
Digital Foundry did a video like last week running Crysis on modern machines, and some still struggle.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's just insane. But the Switch doesn't need to keep up with that. Like the Switch can be its own thing, and the games that are made for it should be made specifically for the Switch. That's how any good console game should work, especially when it's portable.
I think there's been like a narrative around Nintendo for multiple generations, which has been, what about the third party support? Oh, they're going to need third party support. It's never eventuated that it's like they've always been runaway successes. Like, and I think that's going to continue where the Switch, they just don't need that next gen like sheen to their games. They're fine as they are. Like
I think it would suffer for it. I genuinely think it would suffer for it.
The 3DS came out in 2011, which was in the middle of the HD generation. So that was like in the middle of PS3, just before really the current gen consoles. And that had a 240p screen and like a 266 megahertz processor. Like that was like old, like relatively speaking, technology. Very, very basic shit. But that sold gangbusters because it was a Nintendo handheld with awesome Nintendo games. Yeah, and I just don't think they need to worry about that.
Yeah. Well, I would add my final thought in terms of what I would do as CEO of Nintendo to focus in on one specific thing that I think they can still...
I can guess what it is.
Yeah. Do you want to take a stab?
Is it Metroid?
No, it's not actually.
No.
The number one thing that's already been developed. The number one thing that they need to fix their shit on is Nintendo's approach to online gaming.
Oh, fuck yes.
Yeah. That is the number
100%.
one thing. Yeah. So when it comes to actually appreciating the desire of their audience to be social online, when it comes to multiplayer and the supporting networks that you can do that with, things like your audio devices, having microphones and TeamSpeak and all that kind of stuff, maybe considering adding Bluetooth to the next sort of generation of switches, for better connectivity of some of that supporting sort of hardware, actually having those kinds of options built in and not relying on phone apps for that kind of shit, making it so that it's not a pain in the ass to add people to your friends list, this basic stuff that every other company has figured out fucking a decade ago that Nintendo still struggles with for God knows what reason. It's beyond a joke. That is what they need to fix. So, yeah.
As an online gaming curmudgeon, I say, nah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I say make the next Nintendo offline only. You take out the Wi-Fi adapter.
You don't lose anything for it being there, Christian.
I just
you don't have to use it. Just let everybody else fucking have it.
I do think Nintendo's actually improved on that, right? The eShop.
They couldn't get worse.
They couldn't get worse, but they did get better. They got better. Like the eShop is not nearly as garbage as it used to be.
Oh, the shop, okay, yeah.
Yeah. And like, it's one of those things where I feel like they're going to make improvements there. A lot of the stuff is kind of built in. Like, I still really don't like the friend code system. I think it's really silly. But I think that they are improving over time. I don't think that a lot of those improvements are going to happen on the Switch, but hopefully by the next console, they will at least be caught up to how the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One managed online stuff. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Give me themes. Give me custom themes for the Switch home screen. Because at the moment, it's just a black and white theme, and it's getting old, man.
Give me not achievements or trophies. Give me stars. Like Nintendo needs some sort of achievement tracking system of their own brand and making. I think that'd be really cool. So
that's a good idea. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, any final thoughts? We pretty much wrapped on Nintendo.
I think I'm good.
Yeah. Nintendo's still good.
Yeah, Nintendo is still good. That's one of the reasons why I chose them. I can actually go have that spa day that the CD Punk Red, the CD Projekt Red guy really needs. Yeah. So.
Hell yeah. Yep. And keep Miyamoto making games until he's like a dry fucking husk. Things are still going well in that regard.
Captain Crunch.
Yep. Don't care if they do. Anyway, so that's pretty much a show. So Armchair CEO's 2020 edition. Maybe we'll return in 2021 and have a whole new console generation to deal with in terms of discussions and potential controversies that have erupted between now and then. So
probably,
yeah, it'll be super interesting to see.
We'll be covering Blizzard again and how much more they fucked up with a small independent studio.
Or the next wave of Fallout sort of related controversies from Bethesda. Did you see Fallout 76 has finally got a Steam release date now? It's actually coming to Steam with the expansion with all the NPC stuff. So
I'm looking forward to.
We'll have a whole other new way to talk about that in the future, or not.
A new way to gift it to Adrian.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Oh god. All right, well, thanks everybody for watching and listening tonight. If you've got opinions on what you would do in the CEO position of some of these companies, then let us know, for sure. So all the usual locations, so mail up at partyloaded.com, at Partyloaded Show on Twitter, check us out on Facebook, just Partyloaded, and everything else at the main hub at channelendgame.com, of course. So Matt, now that you've actually got more game time back and you're not organising game jams, what do you think you'll finish Pillars this week, or are you a bit far off that?
Oh God, no!
Yeah?
God, no! I'm pretty sure that game's like a 70-hour game. The impression is what I've gotten. It feels like it's probably double the size of the original. So I'm going to play the shit out of it. Yeah. But finish it, I don't think that's happening this week.
Do you think you'll perhaps take a pause and check out Dreams when it launches next week? Is that a thing that you might do?
No. I love Dreams, but I make games already.
That's true. You've already got that itch scratched. Yep.
Yeah. I don't need Dreams, but I love the idea of Dreams and it should exist.
Yeah. Well, Christian, looking forward to hearing your updated thoughts on Control. So
yeah, that's probably about it for me. I'm definitely not going to be into Dreams. Dreams for me is a GIF making machine. Yeah, I'll consume Dreams via Twitter GIFs.
I would almost be happy to buy that game and just play everybody else's shit and not make any of my own. I think there'd be plenty of content there. So
I'm good with GIFs. That's enough for me.
Yeah. Nice. All right. Well, and I'll see what I get captured by in the next week. I seem to be flitting from one place to another at the moment, just sort of taking bite-sized pieces of things when I'm not playing Destiny. So anyway, all right. Well, everybody else, enjoy your gaming. Hope you have a great week. We'll catch you again in 7 days' time. But for tonight, that's it for us. Thanks very much. We'll see you then. Good night.
Good night. Good night.
The Party Loaded podcast is a Channel Endgame production. For this and more great gaming content, bookmark channelendgame.com.